All right, Coop, we're back. You're doing great so far. Um, but there's no scoreboard, as you said about John Wooden, right?
Exactly.
Um, you obviously do have a unique background. University, I noticed, political theory, and you're involved in sports. You told me, I remember you told me you loved cowboys and Indians way back, and you wanted to be a lawyer. How did it all evolve from Motown to LAPD to now?
Well, it was interesting times. I went to college during the Vietnam era, and it was a difficult time. It was a time that had social unrest and social change. It was a time of the country at war, and there was the big debate about the right or wrong of the war. It was a time of big change, and I had to make decisions, and I had to work within a world that sometimes seemed unfriendly, sometimes seemed challenging, and sometimes seemed threatening. Um, when I was making my choices, if I looked inwardly, there was a part of me, and I mentioned the Cowboys and Indians. Um, there was a part of me that wanted to do something adventurous and fun, and I thought about what path I could take that'll be adventurous and fun. Well, there's a war going on. Do I want to go to war? At that time, not at all. Uh, I was in college, and in college I started working in the music industry, kind of in the background, working security as one of those guys that wears one of those yellow vests that says security on the back, and you stand there and you look imposing. And that was kind of an introduction, and that kind of led me down a different path than I might have taken otherwise. As I said, I did want to go to be. I thought about being a lawyer for a while. Um, but I didn't have much passion and much joy in that thought. And so I kind of stayed along the path that I was already going on. And so in working security, I began to meet people. And, I enjoy interacting with people. I enjoy socializing with people. And in the process of doing my work, I met someone from Motown Record Corporation. And about the time when I graduated, I'd already done some kind of peripheral work for them, some soft support work for them, and they offered me a job when I graduated, and I took it. And that led me down the different path. I never gave up the Cowboys and Indians idea, but it led me down the path towards security. And as I looked at what I was doing and I looked at the world around me, I thought there needs to be a little bit more structure, a little bit more organization. There needs to be someone and something that gives stability in this world of wars and social unrest and social change. And not that I thought that I was going to go and solve the world's problems. I've never ever imagined that. I apologize. Somebody is blowing grass.
No problem. Again,
Um,
life.
it is life. Um, I, I looked at the police department and I looked at the opportunities that there were there. At the time, it was kind of a hit and miss with the police department because they were going back and forth in their hiring process. But what happened was I eventually did decide to join LAPD, and that began my career in that field as opposed to going into law school. And in a sense, I ended up working with lawyers anyway because I fed them their clients
Right.
very, very, very well.
Well, we have enough lawyers. I'm glad you didn't go into law.
Yes, there are plenty of lawyers on this planet.
You had mentioned when you were talking about leadership in another part, don't like to be dominant, and there's different types of leaderships. And I noticed in sports teams, I noticed this with the Miami Dolphins at one point. One point they had a very um, even-keeled, non-emotional coach, and people were complaining about him. Then at the other point, they had a very emotional coach, and they were complaining about him. So, is there a right leadership for organizations?
Well, organizations have a particular kind of need, and then individuals have a particular kind of need. And then you might consider the industry or the focus in which they work and operate that might dictate a kind of need. Keeping with that sports theme, UCLA had John Wooden, who was very structured, very organized, very methodical, very basic. He taught the players how to dribble the ball first. Now, they came in knowing how to dribble the ball, but he taught them how to dribble the ball. He taught them how to shoot baskets. They had to wear white shirts and ties and sports coats when they traveled. They had to be clean cut up until this kid named, I don't know, something like Bill Walton or something,
Some
came
guy.
along and kind of stretched the limits a little bit. And then we also had another coach named Larry Brown. If you remember Larry Brown, he
Absolutely.
was one of the coolest guys in the world. And I love Larry Brown, and we got along very well. Totally different style. I've worked closely with the police department and with the military and with the intelligence world, and I found that there were different leaders that had different styles for each one of those. Getting back to what I said about leadership, you can have a leader who takes command, takes the flag, charges up the hill ahead of you, or you can have a leader who says it is the best. It is best that I get my best people. We come up with a good plan and we structure it and we move with it. Um, there is not necessarily one single way that things should be done. The best way, from my standpoint, the best way has always been step into the environment, look at what you have, talk to people, learn who you have, learn what your mission is, study the environment, make some goals, make some plans, and then find the right people to make that plan work. That I call leadership, and tasking people to do their part and do the very, very best.
So that kind of segues into what I was going to ask you about how to create a winning culture. And I may have mentioned this to you. I interviewed an executive of one of the NHL pro teams, and he told me that they aim every year to win a championship every year, but they know it's competitive, like we all know, crazy competitive, and you can't. But they aim for that. But what they mandate though and require is that they have a winning season every year. So to do that, you have to create a winning culture. They talked about from the usher to the players to everybody in between. That falls in line with what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's important. If you're talking about a team you're actually talking about individuals on that team, and you need each individual to like themselves, like what they're doing, kind of agree with the overall game plan, and be willing to put out their very, very best and go beyond, I can't do this, or I'm too tired, or I don't feel like it, or I'm distracted. And so what that means is you need to know each individual player in the contest, each individual worker in the office place, and you need to get them to buy into it and understand that they're doing their best, they're giving their best. It is for them, and then we all benefit from that. And from that, you get the opportunity for a team approach with a team going in the right direction towards a goal.
It's changed quite a bit from what I remember. Now coaches have to be able to deal with individuals, but
Yeah.
it wasn't always that way. It was these were the rules, and that was it. Remember?
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, I think we've talked a lot about sports. It seems sports has developed a lot of individuals who are on teams,
Right.
and it's made for difficulty. We see players who can't play for a certain coach. We see players that have no-name players who win championships. It's an example of what we're talking about.
But it applies to business too. I've seen it a million times where I've asked executives, "What's the vision, the mission of the business?" before we recruit another executive they're looking for. And amazingly enough, I've seen different visions and missions among the people in the company.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking as you were speaking, I was thinking there was a movie and I can't remember the name of it now. A Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh,
And
sure.
Wolf of Wall Street, the Leonardo DiCaprio character, when he lost his job, he went to this kind of the new startup, low level firm. He gets on the phone and he's being himself, and he's pitching and selling, and he's hard driving, and everyone in the room. I mean, I know this is a movie, but everyone in the room is looking at him and going, "Wow, look what he's doing! Look how he's doing it!" And they see the results, and then they decide, "I can do that," and he begins to share it. He's willing to share it. He's willing to give pearls of wisdom, ideas, and concepts to others, and they're willing to receive it. And the next thing you know, the story goes on and everyone's rich until they go to jail.
It's a great point because even me, I remember, we were always taught privacy about almost everything. And leadership really has turned into a lot, as you say, about sharing.
Yes, yes. And I have to say, having worked in the intelligence field, uh, sharing is an issue.
I guess it can be for sure. Social media obviously has impacted things. Cybersecurity, to say the least, which you've been involved in to a great degree, also has dramatically impacted everything, but including decisions and actual actions or non-actions of leaders in both business, global affairs, whatnot. Um, Obviously, in your work as well. There's got to be a million stories, but how have you seen this happen in a relatively short time in the world impact everything?
Well, it's happened in law enforcement. It's happened in the intelligence world. It's happened in the military. It's happened for our political world. It's happened in business. Think of Sony. Um,
Oh yeah,
the impact is this: the world has gotten very, very small, and I know everyone is saying the same thing, but it's so true. The world has gotten very, very small. Everything is immediate and right now. If a guy burps in the middle of the Gobi Desert, everyone knows about it within a few minutes. And the result is that everyone believes that they're living in real time with events around the world. The next thing that happens is there is no filter to social media and such that and so what happens is that guy burps in the Gobi Desert and they report about that burp. It might have been something totally different once they get all the information in, because it needs to be filtered without the filtering. And what has happened with social media is that people espouse their ideas, they espouse their opinions, they give their thoughts, they report on incidents, and their reporting is not professional reporting, it's simply talking, it's simply telling.
right.
And something told over and over and over again tends to become fact or reality. And it's created problems, it's created difficulties. And then you have situations like Edward Snowden and the guy who had a sex change in prison,
Oh,
blanking on his name,
not the WikiLeaks.
Sailor. I apologize, I'm blanking on his name,
Forget
but
it.
you get these people who decide that they're going to use social media and the cyber world to their advantage.
Right. And they and they're smart. I mean, God knows, all you have to do is look what's happening these days about
Yeah.
using social media. I always found it interesting. We used to be. I remember my parents saying, "Don't believe everything you read in the newspaper."
Yes.
That was the thing about don't believe. Now it's like you say, "Holy cow!" Everybody is
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah. One of the things that always struck me about the newspaper, the media in general, and I know that I can be seen to have a bias because of my background, but we trust the media absent any kind of vetting. No
Yeah.
one in the media takes a polygraph. No one in the media goes for a background check. No one in the media is subject to any kind of review from the public. And they report on things, and they often tend to give opinion about things. And we're talking about people that we don't know.
Yeah, and they give it's a long discussion, but you're right. I mean, some of them have expertise and experience in certain arenas, but sometimes I find that they're just talking about stuff that they really, as you say, don't know all they should know to be able to impact people's opinions.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's crazy. Hey, what characteristics of your work have you enjoyed the most?
Relating with people. I think, we're relating with people, working with people, teaching, if walking someone from not knowing to knowing is fun and rewarding. And getting someone to a point where you begin to teach them something, you begin to lead them to something, and before you know it, they've turned it around and they're leading and teaching you. That's rewarding. And then getting a plan and seeing a plan work well and be successful, always fun.
Yeah, I could relate to that because coaching kids, you find you when they achieve it and they look back at you or they look up in the stands at their parents, look, I did it, type of thing.
Yeah,
It's pretty amazing. Remember, what's that old expression? It's much better to teach a man how to fish than to fish for him or whatever the expression is.
right. Yeah, you can teach a man how you can give a man some fish, or you can teach him how to fish.
Yeah,
Kind of idea. Yeah, and I always appreciated that.
yeah. And hey, a couple of personal questions. Not that personal, but a little bit personal. Well, this one
I'm
we know.
6'1". I weigh 200 and. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, 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 not too much information. This to answer this question we know. Do you have a pet?
Do I have a what?
A pet.
A pet? Yes. Well, my wife has a pet. I have responsibilities. We have one of two dogs still in our home. We had two little Jack Russell Terriers. The one that's still here is 16 years old. We had two, and the other one died about 2 years ago.
Yeah, we have this new series we're starting called. It was going to be called Executives and Their Pets, but a couple of executives told us to change it to Pets and Their Executives.
Exactly.
So that's what we're doing. Do you have a
Yep.
favorite activity or sport?
Well, I love football. I love college football in particular. I love college sports in general much more than pro sports because it seems they haven't become as corrupted yet.
Yeah,
Um, Although that is changing.
yeah.
But I like college sports, particularly I like football. I played football and I ran track. I like both of those. I was involved with the UCLA basketball team for a short term. So I like sports. I run. I walk.
Cool.
I like cycling. I used to surf quite a bit until at UCLA they made me quit surfing because they thought it was bad for my track career.
Could have.
Um, and oh, I don't know.
So,
I love music.
what kind of
Um,
music do you like?
well, I like almost all kinds of music. Mostly, I like soft jazz. I like classical. I can tolerate and sometimes like some country. Um, I don't especially like the current trend of rap music, although there is some good rap music.
Yeah, I think sometimes the key is just respect all different types, and you don't have to like everything. Do you have a
Yes.
favorite type of food?
Favorite type of food? Well, I try to eat as healthy as I can, but I also want to have fun sometimes.
There you go.
So I will have a burger every once in a while. I tend to be light on meat and say mostly with salmon or other fish and chicken. Um, yeah, and I'm lactose intolerant, so I love milk, but I can't have it.
I know I love milk too. That would kill me. So,
Yeah.
hey, listen, thanks so much for sharing all that. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.